Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. As you might know, we run a YouTube channel called Basic Sikhi. There are quite a lot of videos about Simran on there, but I thought I'd share some of my personal experiences because Bhai Jagraj Singh asked me to. It's not really one thing that much of us talk about, but I mean, I actually came into Sikhi primarily from Simran. What I mean by that is that I knew about the Gurus, I knew the history, and I kind of read some of the philosophy before when I was not really a practicing Sikh. And that inspired me enough to keep my turban, but not really inspired me enough to keep my beard. So I was one of these people that was like, oh, you know, I should, but I'm not sure, like, what's the need to go the whole hog and take amrit and stuff. And I guess that step into really going from somebody who believes in the Gurus, but not really following, to someone who actually follows and tries to spend his life trying to meditate and get closer to the Guru, and you know, so that transition to go from somebody who believes in the Guru to somebody who actually follows the Guru and does and tries to do, you know, in my own way, imperfect way, to follow Guru Sahib, then that transition I think came from Simran. Well, my first introduction to it, I didn't even know that Simran existed. I didn't even know that we did Simran. So that was a bit of a surprise. I met this guy who was a Singh who lived in the town that I was studying at, and he offered me a lift, and we were at his house, and he said, look, let's do some Simran. I wasn't really aware of what it was, and I asked, like, what do you do? He goes, we're just going to sing Waheguru. I was like, okay. And to be honest, I hadn't really related Waheguru for God. It wasn't really something that we used in that way. We never really spoke about God much, so the word Waheguru for God wasn't something that I really used. It was more like God. So yeah, so we're in this room, and there's another guy there who's living. He's a Polish Christian who loved to play the guitar. So that guy's playing the guitar, the singer's singing Waheguru. They're all singing Waheguru, and I'm just sitting there thinking, what are we doing? So I was like, well, might as well join in, you know, because you're there anyway, you might as well. So I decided to say Waheguru, and just something happened to me. You know, it was like it was a mental experience. It wasn't anything physically touching me from anywhere else in my body. It was just like, in my mind, I just felt this. Oh, it was hard to say what it was. It's more like an overwhelming experience. At the same time, it felt like an awakening, and it felt like, at some points, it felt like I was being absorbed into something, and it was quite scary because I don't know what it was. It was just like, whoosh, and it was really, really sort of like, I wouldn't say at that time it was actually very blissful. It was more like just overwhelming, and I was like, whoa, what happened? And it felt real. It felt like it was right to do that, but it also felt quite scary. And I pulled myself back straight away. I just felt like it was too much for me, because I'd never been told what it was and what is Simran and what we're trying to do with Sikhi. So that was my first experience, and to be honest, I was left a little bit confused. And then I started reading about Sikhi more, and finding more about what spirituality is about from a Sikh perspective. And I realized that was like an awakening thing, and I was very blessed actually to have that experience. Very blessed that for some, probably from whatever, it's not from this life, because my life so far has been pretty miserable at that point to a Sikhi, but from some previous life or whatever it was, or Guru Sahib's blessing really, that time that I said Waheguru just a few times, I felt something, and it made me get scared, or it made me feel like there was something more to life than just the mundane. And then I was actually quite intrigued, and I wanted to have that experience again. And I was scared the first time, and I was like, I want to have that again. So then I signed up for the Sikhi camp. And the Sikhi camp, every morning there was Simran, and every evening there was a Darbar, which was like Rada Sahib, followed by Simran and kirtan. And to be honest, in my life, I'd never really been exposed to that. So people doing part who were young and who were into it. So what happened next is that in the camp, in the first evening, there was quite an intense kirtan Darbar. And I was reading the screen and trying to understand what was going on, but mostly I was just trying to sing along when they said Waheguru. And luckily, they knew that people like myself were floating about. They didn't know what was going on, so they did a lot of Simran in the kirtan as well. And so I would just sing along, saying Waheguru, Waheguru, and it was really, it was really powerful. And I just, I had that same thing, but this time it was not as scary because I was kind of expecting it, and it's actually very blissful. So I was walking around, and now I started to feel not just the bliss, but I started to feel love, towards the Guru, and this the whole Sangat was rubbing off on me, so I was feeling this love. And this is what Guru Sahib says in Bani, they say, Saad Sangat ke asare, Prabh se o rang lai. So in the support of the Saad Sangat, with the help of the Saad Sangat, we start to fall in love with God. So this experience of this divine experience is just what I see as God. This is the experience of God. And I started to fall in love with it. I started to fall in love with God, and I started to fall in love with my Guru, because he was providing me and helping me to have that experience. And then in the morning I was like, I've got to wake up for this Amrit Vela. And really I didn't know what Amrit Vela was. They kept talking about Amrit Vela, Amrit Vela, Amrit Vela. And I didn't know what it meant, just the morning 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. I didn't even know that's just what it meant. I felt like there was going to be water. I had this crazy thing, there was going to be water there. And we were standing in water and doing Simran. I don't know what to expect. But it turned out we're just sitting in a Gurdwara, same thing we did in the evening, and just singing Waheguru. I just joined in. And it was good because it was only Waheguru. And because I didn't know much kirtan or Simran or anything else, so I could really focus in on that one word, And we were just calling God. And it was, sometimes it was fast, sometimes it was slow. And it was just the same thing, just love and bliss. And sometimes I'd feel tearful and start crying. Sometimes I felt like I missed Waheguru. Sometimes I was just sitting in bliss and just enjoying this awesome joy. Sometimes I felt like I wasn't even attached to my body, I was just floating in space and just, in just how awesome everything was. So it was very powerful, and I felt, yes, I just, in my heart I knew that God is real. In my head I knew God is real. The Dasam Dua I talk about, that thing was, was working away. I'm feeling bliss there. I'm not saying, it's like I describe it like a door, and like I knew that the door had opened a little creak and there was light coming in from the other side. I couldn't really see anything, but it was just that there is definitely a door there and there is light on the other side. So I was just like, oh wow, God is real, Simran is real, and Guru is real, and Sikhi is real. And suddenly everything just made perfect sense. The whole of Sikhi made perfect sense. The way that the Guru people used to meditate and do part and Simran, I realized they were just trying to get that experience, and that experience is really important because it's mind-blowing. And then you understood Guru is not just a person, he's come down to give God to us. And really my family had grown up more, I would say, ethical and moral, but almost atheist in that sense, because we never trying to experience God. And I realized the difference between people that are really trying to find God and those that are just trying to follow Sikhi because it's a moral religion, it's their culture or their background. And now I was lucky enough to be in these people that understood what Sikhi was about. And I didn't really want to leave it, So during the week I just wanted to step closer and closer to that experience. So I started to decide I was going to keep my hair, I wasn't going to eat any more meat, I was going to just focus my life upon recreating this experience. And the day after the camp, every morning at the camp there was Simran, beautiful Simran. So I tried to make most of the Amrit Velas, and I tried to, it was like a desire and a hunger. Even if I was tired, I was excited by what was going to happen in that hour, singing Waheguru. And it was really nice because some people even looked after me. I didn't really have any proper clothes to be in a Gurdwara. I had no kurta pajamas. I didn't even own any at that time. And sometimes I forgot to take a jumper. And there was this one Singh who just came up to me once and gave me a big shawl and just covered me up because he could see I was kind of half shivering. So you really felt like you were welcomed in by all the Guru Sikhs that were there at the camp. And I really enjoyed that. I was a Munna, I just didn't know anything about Sikhi, but they just welcomed me in and they were happy that I was saying Waheguru. And even I remember once I ended up kind of just singing Waheguru quite loudly, and I was singing at a particular tune, not too fast, and people just let me go with that, and I ended up leading the Sangat, in the Simran, because it was flexible like that. There wasn't, in the morning there didn't used to be a tabla vaja, it just used to be no harmonium, no drums, just people singing with their voice sometimes. So I was just leading the Sangat for about 10 minutes, and so it was just, every day was amazing. Every afternoon, the evening, it was amazing, the kirtan. And there was a Singh there, I don't think he'll mind if I say his name is Butta Singh, and he still does Chope Sahib. And I never heard any part in that sense. I don't know what Chope Sahib was, but they told me it was a warrior part, and he used to sing it in a particular tune which was really powerful tune. And in the evenings when he used to sing this tune and everybody would get involved with it, I just felt like I wasn't even there in the camp anymore. I was like on a battlefield, you know. There was like, just felt so charged up with this devotion towards the Guru, the power, the Biras, what we call now the warrior spirit, and it was just taking over me, and I just wanted to join the Guru's army, really, you know. And I realized this is my life. This is what I wanted to recreate every day. So the day, you know, I've told before, like I asked Guru Sahib if I should go to India, and they, you know, people told me that you can speak to Guru Sahib by asking Hukamnama. So I just queued up in my Hukamnama line, and it was my turn. And I asked, like, should I go to India and learn Gurmukhi and Part? Because the aim was to take Amrit, but I didn't know anything, any Gurubani, so that's what I felt I should do. But the Hukamnama was like, take Amrit now. I mean, it didn't say that you shouldn't go to India. I was like, I'm going to go to India anyway, but it was like, take Amrit now. So I was like, ooh, you know, I was a bit scared. I was like, I don't think I'm ready. And then I just thought to myself, like, who knows if I'm ready? Only the Guru knows, right? And the Guru's the Guru, and I'm the Sikh, so I should just listen and just do what I'm told. I was like, okay, just do what I'm told. So the next day, it was the end of the camp, so we went home, and I'd already told people that I was going to take Amrit, and it was really nice. This one guy came up to me, the same Bhutta Singh who was in the kirtan. I was hanging out with him that week. He just came up to me and he goes, "Oh, tomorrow you need your Panchka cards." I didn't even know much about the Panchka cards. I was like, "Oh, you have to." I didn't have a kashera, I didn't have no kirpan. I hardly had carried any case. And he just gave me his kirpan. He's like, "You take this kirpan, you know, and you wear it tomorrow." And then somebody like I had kade. So at the camp, at the Nagar Amrit Sanchar, they gave me kasheri, and I just went. There was another Singh who'd been keeping his vet for a couple of years, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go as well then. I'm ready." After the camp, so we just went together. He picked me up, and he was there to guide me because I didn't understand any Punjabi at the Amrit Sanchar. He just told me what they told me to do, and I just, you know, there it was. So I still went to India, Maharaj Kirpa. Bhai Sahib wanted me to ask me about Simran.
So to sum this all up, you've become, you've blossomed in your Sikhi, you've grown a beard, you've grown a turban. Not only this, you inspire a lot of people about everything to do with Sikhi, and it all came from Simran.
It just came from this one word, Waheguru. And obviously from the Sangat. The Sangat, that's the powerful thing. Seeing Simran by yourself is one thing. But when you're sitting in a group of good Sikhs, and you know, the camp really works, you know. For me, this experience of God through Simran really sort of solidified, like, okay, this is what I want. But the Sangat of the good Sikhs, and also the talks at the camp, they're very inspiring about, like, that we have to take responsibility for Sikhi, that we as Sikhs can't just, as young Sikhs, we can't sit there thinking, oh, the Gurdwara is like this or the Panth is like that. You know, it's our responsibility to step up, and we really are Guru's children, and if this is our house, and our house under attack, then we can't just sit there on the sidelines saying, oh, well, someone should come and save my house. This is my house, and I've got to feel that I'm his son and get involved. And I really wanted to, you know, do something more important in my life than just make money and have a big house and, you know, look after myself. So the speakers at the camp, you know, there were some Mahapurukhs that came down. There were some Mahapurukhs who were at the camp in general. So just these holy people who were just giving off all these great vibes. And the friends and the stories in the evenings, we would do stories. And there was a couple of Singhs who would go and tell stories about the Gurus. And the stories are so amazing. And yeah, so the love comes from all places. But for me, the Simran really was like, it solidified everything for me, because without that, I don't think I would have come into Sikhi, you know, and taken Amrit. Because then you understand what is it all about, you know, and that love becomes so powerful. And then you understand when Guru Gobind Singh says, you know, that only those who love will find God. It's not the kind of love you get in the world. It's not the kind of love you have for the Guru when you haven't experienced Simran. It's that love when you experience Simran, you deep down in your heart calls out for God. It's like a child, you know. It's calling out for God, and it's like, I need you. I really miss you. And that missing, that pain of separation is called Bairag. That's why people cry in Simran, you know. And so I found myself crying. I didn't understand it, and I realized it's because you miss God, you know. And that is kind of a love story, you know. You miss God, but then you feel God, and you cry because you love that feeling of missing God, but then you experience God, and you feel happy. So it's like Anand and Bairag at the same time. It's very funny. It's a very funny game that Waheguru's created, you know. That and it's pure love, So, everything worked together. That's what the great thing about camps. Like we just went to camp now, and this is the great thing about the camp. It's just everything works together. You get the theory, you get the history, you get the practice, you get the Shastra Vidya, the friends, the Sangat, And funny thing at the camp, I was so excited about the camp and how it changed my life that I went and told the speakers that it's so amazing the camp. We should make a video where we go and talk to people about how much the camp changed their life. They were like, "Oh, that's a great idea." So then they got the camera out, and I went around interviewing people at the camp about how good the camp was. And I was doing basically, if you look at what I do now, with the YouTube channel and the camera, you can almost see like the seed was sown like 16 years ago in 2000, and I was walking around, interviewing people about Sikhi, as a munna. So it was a funny situation. And since then, I was very lucky because I lived in Southall. So our local Gurdwara, the main Gurdwara, they had a Simran session every morning from 4 to 5. So I couldn't do any part, I couldn't do any Simran, I didn't do anything. So every morning I'd be just down the Gurdwara doing Simran. And that was my nickname, Sorry, Maharaj, they told me at the Amrit Sanchar, if you can't do part, just do Simran for an hour. And I was like, okay. So then there was a Simran session from 4 to 5, I would just go down there and do Simran. And then there was another session, another Gurdwara from 5:30 to 6:30. And there was a couple of Sikhs that I knew, I just took Amrit, they met me at the camp. And they were like, "Oh, we go to the other Gurdwara afterwards from 6:30. So he was like, "Oh, I'll drive you there and I'll drop you back home." I was like, "Great." So then I would go from one Gurdwara, we'd have half an hour break to get to the other Gurdwara. And then he'd spend an hour there and then he'd drive me back home. So really I was getting like 2 hours of Simran every day. And it was so amazing, And it was different because in the camp you've got a lot of youth. And it's like, it's more powerful, I feel. But in the Gurdwara, it was steady Sangat of people that come every week. So there wasn't this kind of people but still it was very powerful. And for me, it just grew. The Simran experience grew, And I just felt like, if you hadn't been exposed to that Simran, if I had not been exposed to that Simran, then in a way, I wouldn't have had this desire, this kind of understanding that Sikhi really is about the experience of God. It's not just about the morals and the theory and the Bani and the meaning of the Bani. It's really about getting people to experience God. So, the Simran that was there was powerful. And obviously, with Simran, it's a hard thing, it's like a mental game. So sometimes you get distracted, you're sitting there and your mind is wandering. So, like on our Waheguru course, we go through Simran. And one of the things I say is like, it's different when you're in a Gurdwara to when you're in a home setting by yourself. So, if I was at a home setting and my mind starts to wander during Simran, then what I try to do is obviously focus upon the sound of my voice. So increase the volume, what you're saying. If you're saying it too slowly, say it louder so you can start to hear yourself saying Waheguru, Waheguru, Waheguru. Then I try to imagine myself calling God, right? And so for each one is like a call, not just like a saying something, but calling God, It's like me and my friends joke sometimes, they stop saying Waheguru and call Waheguru, And that really, for me, works, that's just calling God, because it's that connection, and Waheguru will answer, in not the normal sense, but in the experience. And then also, sometimes you have to bring yourself back into the present, so you have to fight your mind wandering off. So, you can do techniques like sometimes I would imagine Waheguru as a word floating in front of me, just Wah, and I see it in Gurmukhi and say, that's Waheguru. I'm going to imagine that word. I'm not going to get my consciousness to go anywhere else but that word. And then other times, I wouldn't really think about the word or what I was doing, but I was thinking about, closing my eyes and just focusing upon, say, a point on my body, like, in the middle of where I was looking. Even though my eyes were closed, I wasn't looking anywhere. So, and this is what a lot of people do. They use a third eye point for that reason, to focus on the third eye point. You can't really see it, but all your concentration, your dhyan, is in one place. And that makes you ekagar. Ekagar means everything is unified and you're focused. So that focusedness helps, right? So you focus upon saying Waheguru, you focus upon that experience of God. You don't let other things come and distract you. And then obviously that bliss, so you can focus, say if you're focusing here, you could, if you can feel your Trikuti, this is here, the third eye point, if you can feel it, you can experience the bliss there, you can experience the joy, you can focus on that, but you can also focus on the Sandwan. because that's also where you're experiencing God. So it's just, for me, it's like, you know when you're experiencing God, and you know when you're distracted. So it's really about expanding that time that you're experiencing God, and whenever you get distracted, snap yourself out. Don't stay there. Just say, oh, what am I doing wrong? Let me focus here, let me focus there. So we actually go through like 4 different ways of saying Waheguru. So you can say like Waheguru as a wow, and you can say Waheguru, Waheguru, or you can say Waheguru as a Waheguru, so wow, hey, and then Guru. Or you can just focus on the 4 sounds representing all the 4 jugs that are there, the Sat Jug, Treta, Dwapar, Kal Jug, and say Waheguru slowly. And then there's that, the simple, just calling Waheguru, Waheguru, calling you straight. So there's many ways of saying Waheguru. Even though you say the same word, you can have your focus in different places. And if you can't focus on one thing for too long, you get bored, you can go from one to the other. It's kind of like, you can't do 20 press-ups like this, but you could do 10 wide ones and 10 these ones. So then you've done 2 different press-ups, but they've allowed you to do more. And that's kind of how I see Simran sometimes, is do different techniques until, so you've done the time that you want to do. And then obviously sometimes singing in kirtan is good, and sometimes just having it by yourself is good. So different styles there as well. And then with your breath as well, you can do that. Experiences with Simran, it's hard to describe experiences with Simran, because like, what can you describe, whoever hasn't had that, Mara said, Jin Chakyat is Aya Swad. Those who experience it, they have that swad of it. There is definitely a lot of bliss in Simran, obviously. That's like kind of like level 1, Mara says straight away, Anand Paya Meri Mai, Satguru Mein Paya. So the bliss is there. When we just say Waheguru, straight away you can have like that experience of joy and bliss. But that straight away doesn't come straight away. Sometimes in the beginning you have to spend like half an hour doing Simran, and then you start to get that bliss, then you start to get that joy, right? But you might not get it, if you try by yourself, you might not get it for a long time. And then over time though, you get it, you start to get it straight away. And this is just because you've done the kamai of that, you've earned that. And this is why sometimes people don't understand what kamai means. Kamai literally means earning. So you imagine like, when you first start your job, you're on probation. You don't get paid anyway after the first month, but you're still there every day working. You trust the boss because you think, if I work for a month, he will pay me. And the same way, when we start doing Simran, we might do Simran for half an hour, then we get paid a little bit with a bit of anand. But still, we think, thank you, Waheguru, for giving me that little bit. But as you start to become more advanced in your job, you can actually get paid straight away. Right? If you need to take a loan from the employee, you can get money straight away. So that reserve of earning is there. And this is why people like Mahapurukhs, they've got so much kamai, they can just give it away to people. And I remember meeting some Mahapurukhs that blessed me, and I was living on cloud, on heaven, basically on earth for, good time afterwards. And the people, every Sikh should be trying to get their kamai, so that on those days that they fall short, the kamai carries them through, because there's going to be days that you go up and days that you go down, right? So you got to put in the kamai, and that way it will sustain you. So Simran and Sangat and Seva and Part, these are all things that help you to remain at that level of kamai and to keep on expanding. And hopefully we'll go from the bliss to the joy of experiencing God, to the point of actually, getting that feeling of separation when we cry for God, that bairag. And then if we get that bairag, we'll start to miss God. We want to do anything we can to get back. And then there's obviously other stages as well, when you get to see a few other things. You might get the chance to see your life, through God's eyes. You might get a chance to see your past lives. You might get a chance to see, other things or people you're supposed to meet. So there's all these things that are called kotaks, and they just come with Naam. It's like they're just part of Naam, part and parcel of becoming more aware to the truth. You start to see more truth. And this is in every Guru Sikh's lives who does Simran. And when those happen, my tip would be, don't get pride that, I got this amazing thing. Because it was a blessing, right? So if someone gave you a gift, you don't get proud because someone gave you a gift. You just become thankful. And so the key thing is to remain thankful and not become proud. And don't judge other people, because if you judge somebody else, you're saying, well, I did something to get what I got. But really, it's all God's blessings that you even had that desire to say Waheguru's name. Maharaj actually says, give me the blessing of being thirsty to say your name. You know, Kar kirpa prabh apni tere darsan hoye pyas. Give me the thirst to say your name. And we should ask our Guru to give us that thirst, to give us that desire to praise God's name. And if you ask for that, He will give it to you. Because it's like He's waiting to give it to you, you know. He's like, finally my child is asking me for what I wanted him to ask for. So of course He'll give it to you. And then if you do that, then He'll bless you with that experience as well. And don't be scared of things like crying. Don't be scared of things like your heart hurting and, you know, all those things. That's just normal part of that love. And sometimes people that don't understand Sikhi, they'll come and stop you. They were like, I remember I was doing Simran once and I was feeling so close and I was like, you know, almost sobbing. And this auntie just came up. She goes, oh, Put, don't cry, don't cry. She like broke the whole thing for me. She ruined it. And I was like, why did you do that? Because people don't understand Simran, no? The average Sikh does not understand this relationship of love between the Sikh and the Guru and the Sikh and Waheguru. And they're not going to understand you. So don't try to worry about them understanding you. Just focus upon you experiencing God, you know. And if you start that love story, it's the most powerful love story you'll have in your life. And me personally, everything I do, you know, I try and remind myself that, you know what, if Guruji is not smiling upon you in grace, then it's gone to waste. You know, and then when He smiles upon you, it's when He lets you experience Him, right? So, Maharaj Kirpa, you know, all of us can have that experience, and all of us can carry on developing that love for our Guru. Thank you, Bhai Jagraj Singh, for this time. I hope this rambling has been helpful. I don't know if it has been, but please do, you know, subscribe to Sikhnet's channel on YouTube and to our channel on YouTube as well, and watch our videos. And let's all try and be better Sikhs, and let's all try and spread our Guru's wisdom. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.